Alright, in this video I just want to talk about a couple of inconsistencies with the globe model and with the people who believe the globe model. One of the things you'll hear people say when they talk about the globe, they're saying the earth is a sphere, they'll look up in the sky and they'll say, the moon, the sun, and the planets, they're all circles. So, let's say they're spheres. That means the earth is. That's illogical, doesn't make any sense. Just because you see them up in the sky does not mean that's what the shape of the earth is. You have to look at the earth to determine that, not something else. That's like an example I like to use is if I was adopted by a black family when I was born. That I grew up and I saw that my dad, my mom, my brother, and my sister are all black, so therefore I am black. No, I have to look at myself and realize, oh, my skin is a different color. I'm different, right? Or you can say vice versa. I had got a white family and I adopted a black child, and that black child thought they were white because everybody around them's white. They would look at themselves and realize, oh, I'm different. So it's the same thing. You're on Earth, you're looking up at the sky, you see circles that we're going to say are spheres just for the sake of the argument, and you're like, oh, I must be standing on a sphere too. That doesn't make any sense. That's illogical. But anyway, another inconsistency when talking to people who believe the globe is saying snipers have to account for the spin of the Earth. Snipers have to account for that? That's bullshit. So you're saying the atmosphere does not spin with the Earth because the bullet is going to go somewhere else because of the spin of the Earth. But it doesn't affect airplanes, helicopters. It doesn't affect you when you jump in the air. It doesn't affect anything else except for bullets. And then they'll say that, yeah, they'll act as though that's a fine thing to say. That's not inconsistent. That it's not a contradiction at all. Which leads to the next thing here is why I have a picture, a CGI picture of Jupiter, and you can't actually get a real picture. Something you might want to look into. Just like you can't get a real picture of the Earth. But anyway, these streaks are because what they say, this isn't me making up, this is from NASA and what the so-called scientists say, is that the core is spinning, like they say the Earth is. And the atmosphere isn't spinning with it, so you got these wind trails on it. Tremendous trails of wind that are just very, very fast. Because the atmosphere isn't moving with the actual planet itself. This is the gas that's around it, right? So you'll say that the Earth is a sphere because you look up in the sky and you see what you think are spheres, yet their atmosphere does not follow them when they spin, but for some reason it does with the Earth. It does with the Earth. That's why you don't notice the Earth's moving, but you look at Jupiter and the atmosphere is not moving with Jupiter. So why is the atmosphere move with the Earth but not with Jupiter? And why does it stop moving when you use a sniper rifle? But it doesn't do that with an airplane, a helicopter, or when you jump in the air, the Earth doesn't move out from underneath you. But it'll do it to a bullet. You see how it's inconsistent? It makes no sense. It's illogical. It's contradicting. It's basically when they put this in your face and they tell you about it, they're mocking you of how dumb you are. And I know you don't like being called that, but the only way for you to smarten up is to admit reality, that you're being dumb and you weren't thinking things through, you weren't paying attention, and you correct that. Everybody has been dumb, no big deal, nothing to be ashamed about. But anyway, so the next inconsistency is they will say that when you drive in a car, you don't notice the movement, like the wind in your face, and a fly could be in the car with you and flying as if, the car's not moving, right? And it's like, oh, so what you're saying is that the reason why the atmosphere moves with the Earth is because it's an enclosed system, so that there's some kind of spherical dome around the Earth that is moving the atmosphere with the Earth. Because that's what a car is. You have an enclosed system. There's a dome over you. Now, if you want to make it as though it's supposed to be the way they tell you, where there's no spherical dome over us, that you can just fly up there and go into outer space if you got enough power on your rocket, well, that would be like driving a convertible without a windshield. Like driving a motorcycle. You feel the wind coming at you because you're moving. You're going 20, 30 miles an hour and you can feel it. Yet they say that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and you don't feel it. So they have to say that the atmosphere is moving with you even though it's not enclosed. So how is it moving with us? But it doesn't move with Jupiter. And how does it move with us except for when you're using a sniper rifle? How does that make any sense? How can you not see the bullshit? This is just total and complete inconsistency and contradictions, hypocrisy. So, another inconsistency is talking about how the Earth is floating through a vacuum, right? And they're saying gravity holds the atmosphere from being sucked into outer space. But they cannot measure gravity. Even Neil Tyson deGrasse says, when asked about gravity, he says he doesn't know what it is. No one does. Because you can't measure it. It's just imagination and speculation. There's no way to test gravity whatsoever. It, in science, you need to be able to observe it and test it and follow the observations, right? And you may be saying, well, Newton, an apple fell on his head and there, boom, he got gravity. But if he saw the apple fall into water, he would saw that it fell, but then it floated on the water. So it didn't fall through the water because of density. Like you can have a heavy battleship that weighs tons. It's tons of steel, right? If you take all that steel and you just push it all together so it's just one hunk of metal, so you got like a ton of steel, and you put it on the water, it sinks. It just. But then if you form it into a ship, so it has air compartments and it's less dense, it floats on water. It weighs tons. It's tons of metal, yet it floats on water because of density. You have a rubber balloon and it falls to the ground. You put your air into it, your breath into it, and you let it go, it falls to the ground. But you put helium in it, it still weighs the same amount, it floats away because of density. See, gravity is supposed to be based on weight, except weight doesn't matter if the object is less dense. And then you'll have these people talk about, well, in a vacuum, a feather falls at the same speed as a bowling ball or what have you. And it's like, so you're saying we're in a vacuum? We're not in a vacuum. So why are you even talking about a vacuum? It's like saying if we were underwater, we would be breathing water. Well, no shit, Sherlock, but we're not underwater. So why the hell are you even talking about that? It's just inconsistent nonsense. It should be the things that trigger you to start thinking and to look into things a bit more. And the whole reality about this is that these people who are pushing this actually worship the sun, and that's why they want to say everything revolves around the sun. Or here's another example of something inconsistent. We have Mercury and Venus right here, and the Earth outside of that. Well, during the day, as you can see, it's lit up here. You can see Venus and Mercury, right? But at night, no matter what, you're on this side of the Earth away from the sun, but you can still at times at night see Mercury and Venus, even though they're supposed to be on the other side of the Earth. And going back to gravity real quick here, talking about more inconsistencies. You can look this up. The moon is not causing the tides of the ocean. And I'll just think about this. They say that the moon is pulling the oceans to cause the tides to come up. Yet the moon doesn't pull the rivers so that they start to come up. It doesn't pull on the lakes so that they come up. It just does it to the oceans. The oceans that weigh way more, it pulls on the oceans, but it doesn't pull on anything else. Like, you don't feel the pull of the moon on you. You don't see its effect on trees. Like I said, the rivers or the lakes. You don't see its effect on anything else but the massive oceans. Do you not see how that is super inconsistent and makes no sense? Not to mention, like I said, you can look this up. You can have high tides and low tides on the opposite sides of the Earth at the same time, where the moon is not in both places to cause the high tide, or to be on the opposite side to cause the low tides. So the moon is not causing the high and low tides. And that is something I'm going to leave you with to look into what is actually causing that. Something you should look into for yourself. But anyway, that's just a bunch of inconsistencies with the globe model and those who believe in the globe. Just super inconsistent. Everything contradicts. It's all hypocritical. Like another hypocritical thing. If you have a flat surface, like, okay, this one right here, relatively flat, or this one a little better. Let's just say right here where I'm drawing a line, that's flat. We got the water on here. The water is level, right? And they're like, well, in a flat earth, the water is going to fall off the side. And you can just think of it like a bowl or a cup. There's edges so that the water does not pour out. Like the ice wall of Antarctica is not going to let the water just fall off the side. Yet, on this globe, we got the water on it, and it's supposed to just stick there instead of falling off. It should be dripping all off, but it's not. And then they bring up gravity, something that we can't actually test, we can't measure whatsoever. They say that's what's holding everything together. And they'll show water particles in a vacuum try to form a sphere, right? So saying, like, you're saying we're in a vacuum, but we have an atmosphere that's moving with us, and the vacuum is not sucking away the atmosphere whatsoever. So you can see a lot of the inconsistencies here. And the gravity is holding all this together, but at the same time, it doesn't pull a ton of metal because it's shaped into a ship. And it doesn't pull down a balloon because it's filled with helium. It's able to just easily escape gravity. Like, you could stand up and escape gravity. You jump and you escape it. You have enough power to do that yourself. But somehow this gravity is pulling the oceans down. It's doing all this stuff. When you actually look into it, it's about density. The more dense something is, the lower it drops. In like if you're able to shake everything up so that it sorts itself, it's going to sort itself by density. That when you shake, you have a bowl full of all kinds of dirt, rocks, rice. You could throw some seeds in there. You throw all kinds of different things in this big bowl a glass bowl, so you can see through it. And you shake it all up, and you shake it so that it sorts itself up. Well, it's going to sort itself by density. The denser things are going to go to the bottom, and the less dense things are going to end up floating to the top. That's science. That's something we can actually see and observe and test. Gravity? No, we can't. Gravity is just something they make up, and you believe it because you're taught it as children from people you trust, such as teachers and your parents. That's why you got to pay attention to things that Jesus said, to be wise as a serpent but harmless as a dove, where you got to realize that not everybody is good. Not everybody is awake and can see and realize they've been fooled. Some people have agendas. Some people like to fool people and manipulate to get their way. So what it means to be wise as a serpent, what would a serpent do? To lie and deceive? Doesn't mean you're going to go do those things and you plan to do those things. It's just that you understand the mind of the serpent and how it works. Kind of like if you were living out in the woods, you would kind of want to know how a wolf thinks, or a bear thinks, or a mountain lion thinks, so that you don't become its prey. Not that you're trying to be like one of those predators, just that you're protecting yourself from one. But anyway, thanks for watching, and take care.